Hello, and thank you for joining today's acquisition seminar hosted by the Federal Acquisition Institute. Today's seminar, entitled Category Management for Federal Acquisition Professionals, provides foundational information on category management, a strategic approach that the government is applying to buy smarter. During this seminar, you'll learn about the basics of category management and be introduced to resources that you can use to implement it. During today's seminar, we'll explore 3 different aspects or components of category management. We'll start by explaining what category management is and why the government is applying it. Then we'll move on to provide an overview of how best-in-class solutions are designated and how to begin using them, since a big part of the category management effort is focused on driving broader adoption of best-in-class. And lastly, we'll show you how the tenets of category management are being translated into tactical tools that acquisition professionals can share, learn from, and use in their day-to-day work, since category management is largely about improving government-wide buying through that sharing. At the conclusion of this seminar, you'll be able to define category management, explain why the government is adopting category management, explain what a best-in-class or BIC designation means, find BIC solutions on Acquisition Gateway, recognize the origin of category management spend data, explain the purpose of the Prices Paid portal, and begin finding procurement tools and resources. To help us accomplish these objectives, we have with us Rachel Gillerlane, Community Manager of the Government-Wide Category Management PMO, General Services Administration. Let's get started. Rachel, thanks for being here today.
Thanks, John. My pleasure. Let's start today by letting participants know that they already know what category management is. Take a look at this picture. What do you see? What do you first notice about it?
Well, not being the most organized person myself, I see that they are well-stocked shelves organized by color. And I appreciate the arrangement, so I take a deeper look at what's on these shelves. I see it's hair care products, and I see they're organized by brand, organized by shampoo and conditioner, and I also see on another part of a shelf, it's the sprays and the gels.
Very perceptive first impressions. In a nutshell, category management is a purchasing concept in which the range of products and services purchased by a business are grouped into categories. Turning once more to the picture showing categorized hair products, what about this shelf would influence your family's buying behaviors?
Well, typically I go to the store, I wing it. I don't exactly have my shopping list, so going by a shelf like this, it would remind me to go through that mental checklist of what we need. My wife, with her treated hair, needs a special kind of shampoo and conditioner. I don't have quite those needs. I'm pretty happy going with what the cheapest thing is out there that gets the job done. Assuming the prices are prominently displayed, I'll go through that mental cost-benefit analysis about which product I'm going to choose.
A perfect answer for the point that we're trying to make, John. Wouldn't it be great if federal procurement worked that way, more intuitively, where you could see the solutions available to you, you could refine your requirements while you were shopping, and make a value decision based on available data?
Absolutely. So what's the federal government doing with category management?
The federal government is applying the concept of category management to establish 10 core categories of common spend for the purpose of increasing transparency, eliminating redundancy, saving money, and increasing efficiency by buying like a business.
Well, what do you mean by common spend?
I mean things that every government agency buys, like chairs, computers, financial support, building repairs, employee training, and even custodial services.
Huh. Well, what's this going to mean for acquisition professionals like those who are watching us right now?
For acquisition professionals like you, category management is going to mean spending less effort buying common things like laptops so that you can concentrate more of your energy on specialized purchasing requirements that are more critical to your agency's mission. It's also going to mean accessing tools and strategies that can help you avoid wasting time and effort creating new, potentially duplicative standalone contracts in cases where a viable contract vehicle already exists. And most importantly, it's going to mean getting the best deals for the government. To explain it in a more formal way, category management is a procurement management approach in which purchasing is organized into common categories and managed strategically, Most Fortune 500 companies and several other governments, including the UK and Canada, have adopted category management in the last 20 to 30 years because it's a commercial best practice for both buying and selling. Our federal government, as I said before, is applying category management to buy smarter and more like a single enterprise. The Office of Management and Budget, or OMB, first initiated government-wide adoption of category management in 2014. OMB has defined 10 core categories of common spend and established the category management program's foundational governance. 10 interagency teams with subject matter expertise in each of those categories are developing tools and sharing best practices so that agencies can buy the products and services they need more efficiently and effectively. Because early implementation efforts have focused on establishing governance, baseline data, and performance metrics, there are still a lot of federal employees out there who are just beginning to hear about category management. Category management involves identifying core areas of spend, collectively developing heightened levels of expertise in specific purchasing areas, leveraging shared best practices, and providing acquisition, supply, and demand management solutions. Category management enables us to eliminate redundancies, increase efficiency and effectiveness, and boost satisfaction with the products and services we procure. Category management tools and strategies are helping acquisition professionals do their day-to-day work more easily and effectively. Already today, acquisition professionals are using these tools and strategies to share past prices paid information so that we can ensure we're consistently getting the best deals government-wide, leverage contract vehicles that have great small business participation to improve performance on their agency's small business scorecards, and find best-in-class acquisition solutions that help shift effort from buying common goods and services so that they can focus on mission-critical purchases. Simply put, category management helps us ensure that the solutions we buy actually meet our agency's needs, and it's going to save you and your organization time and money.
Fantastic. So what are the core tenets of category management?
I'm glad you asked, John. The Office of Federal Procurement Policy within OMB has outlined 6 key principles for applying category management across federal agencies. Number 1, developing common requirements that address the majority of end user needs by using data analytics, applying commercial best practices, and understanding the needs of both government buyers and industry suppliers. Number 2, reducing the number of duplicate contracts. I'm going to say lots more about that in a bit. Number 3, improving mission value and total cost of ownership. Category management is not about LPTA procurements, standing for lowest price technically acceptable. Instead, it's focused on activities that improve value and outcomes, like defining requirements more effectively, aggregating demand to get better prices, strategically managing our assets, and making pricing, usage, and performance data more accessible and visible across government. Number 4, applying demand management practices to reduce inefficient and unnecessary buying, which is at the core of what most of you are already doing. Principle number 5 is advancing policy objectives. This one is the catch-all for new and changing statutory and regulatory policy, as well as other federal initiatives. For example, increasing small business utilization and maximizing preference programs for women-owned, vet-owned, and hub-zone small businesses. Pooling our acquisition knowledge and resources government-wide is going to increase our collective agility so that we can implement new policy objectives as they emerge in the future. Right. And finally, Principle 6, improving supplier relationship management. This is about creating closer, more collaborative relationships with industry to find new ways to achieve value and savings.
Pretty good. I think those principles are pretty easy to agree with, but can you talk about how they're put into practice?
Of course. We need category management so that we can get a better handle on what we're buying and how we're buying it. The federal government spends 1 out of every 6 taxpayer dollars to buy goods and services that meet our citizens' needs. Around 61,000 employees across 500 separate federal departments and agencies are making these purchases.
Wow.
The U.S. government is the largest buyer in the world, yet we're operating like 500 different small companies. That means we're suboptimizing our purchasing power and making it really hard for our industry partners to do business with us.
True enough.
The example here illustrates the case for change and why we need to try something new, like category management, to eliminate duplicative contracts. When we studied FPDS spend data, we found that one single contractor had $2.7 billion in business with the federal government through over 2,000 separate contracts and over 5,000 individual contract actions, many of those for the exact same products and services.
Oh, that's amazing.
Price variance studies have unearthed similarly shocking examples, John, like agencies paying between $5 and $25 for the exact same pack of batteries, $453 and $1,298 for the exact same laptop, and between $23 and $91 for the same 400-minute mobile plan. Clearly, this isn't efficient.
Not at all.
The iceberg image on these two examples is meant to represent the limited visibility we had into government-wide spend data before category management. Since we could only see the tip of the iceberg, we were missing out on a lot of opportunities to eliminate duplication and get good deals. Unnecessary redundancy and price variance drives up our collective operating costs, both for us in the federal government and for our industry partners. It also wastes valuable taxpayer dollars and needlessly costs acquisition professionals like you lots of time and effort.
Absolutely.
In your dual role as a federal acquisition professional and a taxpayer, you understand the impact of negotiating better deals and buying more efficiently. One-off negotiations and contracts allow suppliers to continue managing individual contracts and orders as single profit centers and minimize their incentive to consistently provide the best pricing to all of their federal customers. By consolidating requirements comprehensively across individual agencies and more broadly across multiple agencies, we can leverage the benefits of economies of scale. One small agency accomplished just that during a federal desktop and laptop buying event. The U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum's Director of Procurement told us the new pricing achieved through aggregating demand at the buying event allowed his museum to buy 55 extra computers while also saving over $74 grand.
Wonderful.
If we could achieve savings at this scale in every agency, we can make an intense impact on savings and efficiency in our common spend categories.
So true.
So exactly what potential for impact are we talking about here? What's the scope of our common spend categories? John, before I show everyone the categories, how much do you think government spent on common goods and services in fiscal year 2016?
Oh, the whole government? I'm not sure I could be sure on that.
Well, how about some choices?
Well, remember what we were talking about before regarding common being goods and services that most agencies buy? I'll go with the middle. I'll go with B.
That's right. The key word there being common if you were playing at home. Every year, the government spends about $450 billion procuring goods and services generally. The spending not counted as common, meaning it's excluded from the 10 categories we're talking about, it's defense-centric. The federal government has historically managed these purchases using 3,300 largely siloed procurement units, which has resulted in lots of inefficiency, including an average price variance of 300% for certain common purchases and sometimes over 1,000 contracts for the same goods and services, as we saw in those business case illustrations. So let's see how that looks once we break it down into categories. These are the 10 categories of common spend. Each is divided into subcategories of spend as well, just like the hair product shelf where we looked at different types of conditioners, colors, and brands. The purpose of category management is to drive a fundamental shift from managing purchases and price individually across thousands of procurement units to managing entire categories of common spend and total cost across the government as a single enterprise. The categories, as you see them today, are defined by Product Service Codes, or PSCs. The General Services Administration, the Department of Defense, the Department of Homeland Security, and several other agencies collaborated to develop this category structure. Organizing purchasing into categories like this makes it easier to segment and analyze spend at the government-wide level. It's important to note that the spend numbers shown here only reflect data entered in the Federal Procurement Data System, or FPDS. As we mature our data analytics tools and capabilities, you might see these numbers shift a bit later. All 10 categories of spend are measured using 5 key performance indicators. Each category's success is being measured against specific goals for increasing spend under management, which I'll talk about soon, achieving savings, reducing contract duplication, maximizing small business utilization, and increasing acquisition gateway usage. Each of the 10 categories has increasingly ambitious goals through fiscal year 2019 for each of those performance areas. The categories all have their goals posted on the acquisition gateway. This illustration is intended to give you a high-level idea of how we're going to reduce duplicative contracts and bring more spend under management. To match agency demand with managed sources of supply, we first have to track, consolidate, and analyze spend. To do that accurately, we've got to bring more spend under management. The running faucet in this image represents government-wide demand for common goods and services. The buckets represent mature, managed sources of supply. Federal supply schedules, government-wide acquisition contracts, multi-agency contracts, best-in-class solutions, and well-managed and justified exceptions. Those bucket labels aren't accidental. OMB Memo M1722, issued April 12, 2017, instructs agencies to use existing contract solutions for common requirements to the maximum extent practicable, and specifically calls out schedules, GWACs, MACs, and best-in-class solutions. So if you're trying to remember it, schedules, GWACs, MACs, and BICs. The demand landing in the buckets represents spend under management. Remember, the goals expressed in the key performance indicators is to increase the amount of spend under management in every single one of the 10 categories. Unfortunately for taxpayers, a lot of demand is landing in Lake Standalone right now, because siloed buyers are missing out on opportunities to leverage shared, strategically managed sources of supply. Lake Standalone is where unmanaged spend lives. We rate it as Tier 0 on the maturity rating schedule that OMB uses to track spend under management. When individual contracting shops conduct one-off solicitations independently without clear guidance on available offerings or best practices, the result is government-wide fragmentation, contract duplication, reduced quality oversight, and increased costs in several regards, most notably for you all in the form of lower quality outcomes and costs associated with unnecessary administrative burden at all levels government-wide. As implementation progresses, category management is intended to eliminate, or at least greatly shrink, Lake Standalone by funneling demand through category management tools and strategies, all accessed via the acquisition gateway. The purpose is to match agencies with efficiently managed sources of supply. In other words, to direct as much of our common category spend as possible into the buckets recommended in OMB Memo M1722. The difference between this future state image and the previous current state image is that all of the common category spend is under management. Spend under management, or SUM, is the overall measure of the federal government's category management maturity. It's designed to highlight successes at both the government-wide and agency-wide levels to identify areas for improvement. It's the principal measure by which OMB will assess the adoption of category management principles. Government-wide SUM is being assessed using a tiered maturity model that evaluates 5 spend attributes: leadership, strategy, data, tools, and metrics. OMB, working with the 24 CFO Act agencies, established a SUM baseline based on fiscal year 2016 FPDS spend data. Out of that, 42% of the common spend can be considered under management, a Tier 1, 2, or 3 rating as shown on the maturity assessment scale in this image. That means 58% of our common spend was rated at Tier 0, meaning it's sitting in Lake Standalone.
Wow.
Obviously, we have some growth to do, but the good thing is that we have data in place so we know how much growth we need to accomplish. Progress in bringing more spend under management will be evaluated on a continual basis, and individual agencies' SUM maturity assessments will be used to engage agency leaders in regularly reviewing their progress toward their goals. Category executives will use results to develop strategies that bring more spend under management. More about the category executives coming up. How you doing, John? You tracking?
Not bad at all. But I'm curious, which agencies are involved in category management? Who does it apply to?
Well, category management is truly a government-wide effort. OMB guidance related to its application specifically applies to all CFO Act agencies. As you saw on the category chart, several different agencies are involved in leading the 10 categories.
I was curious, can you walk us through who's driving this effort?
Certainly. The Office of Federal Procurement Policy within OMB is the official driver of the overall category management initiative. Beneath them on the pyramid, the Category Management Leadership Council, or CMLC, serves as the governing body for all category management activities. The council is made up of representatives from the largest buying agencies, plus reps from other key organizations. Key leaders across government serve as category executives responsible for leading initiatives within their respective categories. Each category has one executive, with the exception of the medical category, which has two. Each of those category executives relies heavily on an interagency team to share best practices, identify and evaluate best-in-class solutions, drive strategic initiatives, and assess performance within their respective categories. Acquisition professionals serve a critical role in applying the principles, strategies, and tools that come through category management as you actually do the work of government procurement. The purchasing problems that you solve will form important precedents and influence future business rules and practices. Regulatory guidance related to category management is evolving rapidly, so you'll need to visit the Acquisition Gateway often to make sure you're apprised of emerging policy developments. For now, FAR Part 8, which lists procurement sources that government agencies must use, is still in effect, and most of you have supplemental agency-specific sourcing rules as well. As we talked about in the Spend Under Management illustration, OMB Memo M1722 came out in April 2017, and it expressly instructs agencies to use existing vehicles to the maximum extent practicable instead of creating new contracts. It lists schedules, GWACs, MACs, and vehicles designated best in class as examples of existing vehicles available to government agencies. Prior to that, there was a pre-existing OMB memo in 2011 that gave a similar message, directing agencies to maximize their use of interagency vehicles. Currently, there are 3 IT category memos governing sourcing for government workstations, software licenses, and mobile and wireless. There's a FAR case out there as well, which provides guidance on documenting exceptions. And that pretty much wraps it up for category management foundations, John.
Fantastic. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for that summary on category management, Rachel. Now, before we end this segment, though, what's the main thing you want acquisition professionals to remember?
Category management has lots of benefits for the government and private sector organizations that apply it. But the message that I want federal acquisition professionals to take away from today's training is that category management is going to make life easier for them.
Very much so. Well, for this segment, we're going to discuss best in class. So Rachel, best in class, what is it?
Best in class, or BIC, John, is a government-wide acquisition designation for contracts and vehicles that can be used by multiple agencies and satisfy 5 key criteria defined by OMB guidance. Those are on your slide there. Category teams are working to identify and designate best-in-class vehicles to reduce the amount of effort you have to put in to find and research solutions.
Very good. Now, why should acquisition professionals use a BIC solution?
Generally speaking, agencies and their acquisition professionals should use BIC solutions to save time and money. Acquisition professionals can confidently use BICs knowing that they have been thoroughly vetted. BIC solutions help direct agencies to acquisition solutions that offer favorable, pre-negotiated terms and rates, and avoid the time-consuming process of having to conduct new and potentially redundant solicitations.
Nice.
Because BIC solutions are required to have all of their transactional data in the Prices Paid portal, market research and estimating processes are easier, and government-wide insights into buying behaviors are growing more robust with the use of BICs. BIC solutions support government-wide migration to mature market-proven solutions and facilitate the optimization of spend within the government-wide category management framework.
Well, what if I'm currently using a contract that isn't BIC?
If you are using a non-BIC contract that could eventually be covered by a BIC, explore options for transitioning to a BIC as opportunities come up. Using a BIC solution sets you up to achieve greater savings, more efficiency, and it'll contribute to the data that helps all of us make better decisions in the world of procurement. Reach out to BIC solution points of contact who are listed in Solutions Finder for recommendations on how you could transfer to a BIC solution.
Now I should ask, how's a best-in-class designation determined?
Thanks for asking, John. Usually, the category teams identify potential BIC candidates within their respective categories. Once a good vehicle is identified, an interagency review panel evaluates it against OMB's criteria. Then, that panel gives a recommendation for or against BIC designation to the category team. The category team, led by the category executive, validates that recommendation and makes a determination. If the category executive determines that a solution meets BIC criteria, he or she notifies OMB. Then OMB notifies the Category Management Leadership Council, and broader communications start to happen. That could include press releases and blog posts by the category executives, but most notably, you'll know that a best-in-class vehicle has been designated once it's marked on the acquisition gateway, which I'll show you.
Very good. So are the BIC designations permanent?
Good question. No, not necessarily. BIC designations have to be reviewed annually to identify areas of improvement, to also provide opportunities to enhance the solution, and to reevaluate conformance with the 5 BIC criteria I mentioned.
So if BIC designations are continually being added and they're not permanent, how's anyone supposed to keep up with which acquisition solutions are designated best in class?
I'm really glad that you asked that. Fortunately, you don't need to remember which solutions are designated. And since the designations aren't static or permanent, you definitely shouldn't try to print out a list. Instead, each time you start thinking about a new acquisition, check the Solutions Finder section of the Acquisition Gateway. Let's get an idea of just how simple it is to see which items are BIC using this screenshot. When you go to Solutions Finder in the Acquisition Gateway, no matter how you filter your search, any available BIC solutions that meet your search terms will flow to the top of your results. Additionally, Best in Class will appear in parentheses alongside the title of the solution, and the solution itself will be flagged Best in Class. I've said a lot about how BICs are recommended and how easy they are to find. So now that I've said that, quiz question for you. If you choose a best-in-class solution, John, do you think that you still have to perform your own market research and due diligence?
Well, I'm not an acquisition professional myself, but I think absolutely. I wouldn't be able to use any contract vehicle that is, no matter how popular or recommended, without making sure it was going to meet my requirement.
Absolutely. BICs are one more tool for the acquisition professional's toolbox, and a recommended tool at that. But using one doesn't mean you still don't need to assess your purchasing requirement and check your agency's rules for sourcing. So let's take one last look at the benefits of using a BIC solution. They're fully vetted, they're easy to access, and they are compliant with requirements. So far, we've been trying to draw out the benefits of category management and best in class to your agencies and the government as a whole. This last segment is specifically about the benefits and tools for acquisition professionals. Even before formal government-wide category management efforts were kicked off in 2014, acquisition professionals knew we needed a central location where we could all connect and share procurement resources. The Acquisition Gateway is our central resource for all the tools I'm going to mention today, as well as many more that I won't mention. This training is focused on teaching the what and the why of category management, but it doesn't cover the how of Acquisition Gateway. There are lots of other trainings available on the Acquisition Gateway. You can find them in the Training and Events area found at the very bottom of the Acquisition Gateway homepage. There's also a tutorials page within the Tools section that you can use to learn at your own pace. A big part of category management is improving the visibility of government-wide spend and contract data. I'm going to give you an idea of what the Prices Paid portal and the D2D category management dashboards do to that end. It's also focused on making market research better and easier. Solutions Finder, the Calc tool, and eBuy Open are all market research tools that fit into the category management framework and can be accessed through the Acquisition Gateway. Another great benefit of category management is more robust knowledge sharing across government. Acquisition Gateway has lots of content and ways for you to interact and share with acquisition folks and other agencies. Knowledge sharing tools are very prominent and easy to find on your own on the Acquisition Gateway. Core tenets of category management are data analytics and information sharing, visibility into prices paid data, best practices in building or managing solutions and policies, and other key information are needed to locate, acquire, and manage the best sources of supply efficiently, effectively, saving taxpayer dollars. The Acquisition Gateway is a central repository for all of your tools and resources. Contracting officers, program managers, and other acquisition personnel should routinely use the resources found on the Acquisition Gateway whenever they're conducting procurement actions. It helps them access critical information like solution options, with a special emphasis on designated best-in-class solutions. It also links them to market research tools, prices paid data, templates, and sample language for SOWs and other procurement documents, such as expert articles, also community conversations regarding best practices. You can tell from the homepage here that Acquisition Gateway is primarily geared toward acquisition professionals. If you get into the habit of getting on Acquisition Gateway each time you do a new procurement, you'll always know what the latest best-in-class solutions are, and you'll find the latest and greatest market research tools and acquisition community conversations. One of the biggest benefits of category management and moving more purchases to government-wide vehicles is that we'll have better visibility into our spend across all agencies. Access to government-wide spending data is critical to understanding how we make better purchasing decisions and increase savings across the government. We have a limited understanding of spend and quantities and prices negotiated, as well as a limited knowledge of supply network costs. With category management, better data means greater insight into savings, better tools, transparency, and opportunities for you, the acquisition workforce.
So let's look at the 10 government-wide categories again. Where do category teams get those numbers?
The category spend numbers come from data extracted from the Federal Procurement Data System, or FPDS. It's the system in which government agencies report spend and are tied to prescribed product service codes, or PSCs, for each of those 10 categories. FPDS is integral to government-wide category management because it is the only government-wide spend data set of its kind which can be applied consistently to determine spend in all 10 categories.
Rachel, you mentioned success metrics earlier. Can you talk about how FPDS data is used for those?
Sure, FPDS data is a big part of our success measurement. In fiscal year 2016, the government-wide category management PMO, where I work, we released baseline spend analysis dashboards through max.gov on the Data to Decisions site. Since then, the category teams analyzed the spend attributed to their categories and made recommendations for realignment, both within and across the categories. The dashboards report on the 5 measures I mentioned within each of the categories.
Well, while the category management dashboards are great for seeing collective spend, I think the Prices Paid portal tool will be more useful for those who are doing the day-to-day work of buying. Can you tell us what it does?
Sure, and your instincts are right. The Prices Paid portal allows acquisition professionals to see the prices that agencies have paid for products and services across a variety of contract vehicles. It's a great tool for market research and price negotiation, especially if you're looking for past prices on commodities. All of the BIC designated solutions are required to have their transactional history in the portal, which is again one of the benefits of using BICs, and there are several other data sets available as well. You can search across a variety of different award vehicles by vendor, federal agency, contract family, labor categories, and contract type. Understanding prices paid and sharing that data across government is critical to analyzing purchasing and pricing trends. Some of those behaviors, like seasonality and volume discounting patterns, reducing costs, and making smarter buying decisions. The Prices Paid data is a tool and one data point that you can use along with gathering additional context on a negotiated requirement and associated terms and conditions to fully understand how prices were reached. The Prices Paid portal is intended to give the people who buy and manage goods and services a straightforward means to identify potential cost savings within their agencies. Knowing the prices paid by other agencies in the past can help your agency use its purchasing power to access the best prices possible. Price is an important element of total cost, but equally, if not more important, so is what we buy, how we buy it, and how we use it.
So true. Now, the D2D category management dashboards and prices paid portal are great examples of how category management is strengthening the visibility of government-wide spend data. Prices paid could be great for market research too. Can you talk about more of the market research tools that are available on Acquisition Gateway?
Sure. We've already looked at Solutions Finder, but here it is again. Looking under Conduct Market Research here on the Gateway, you'll also find the Calc tool. The Contract Awarded Labor category, or Calc tool, allows contracting officers and specialists to conduct research and price analysis for professional labor categories across a database of contract awarded prices for over 48,000 labor categories from more than 5,000 recent GSA contracts. Before Calc, contracting officers had to sift through paper contracts or comb through GSA Advantage files to stitch together a picture of what fair and reasonable hourly labor rates might be. Calc helps contracting officers determine the range of pricing at the highest level for a specific labor category. Everyone should tool around the Gateway to find opportunities for knowledge sharing, since that's what it's really built for. A few of the knowledge sharing features I'd like to highlight are the category hallways, where you can find expert articles, community discussions, and connections finder. The great benefit of these things is you can find them all in the Acquisition Gateway, which is getting better and better all of the time. You no longer have to just rely on the folks in your office, you have access to other buyers across government.
Well, what can we all do today to start taking advantage of these resources?
Everyone with a role in government buying, even just on the program side, they need an Acquisition Gateway account to get started. Once you have an OMB Max account, registering is easy. After this training, please create an Acquisition Gateway account and start exploring it. We'll post some directions on how to do that. Also, check for your agency's rules on best-in-class solutions, since they likely have supplemental guidance on sourcing prioritization. Don't forget to check Solutions Finder every time you begin planning a new procurement to make sure that you're using the latest and greatest in BIC.
Very good advice.
And believe it or not, John, this wraps up our third and final segment on resources and tools.
That's great, Rachel. Just an absolute tour de force of a presentation. Thank you so much. And since you've done all the heavy lifting on this one, let's have me wrap up with a key takeaway from each segment. From the first segment, Category Management Foundations, you should be able to explain why the government is adopting category management. From the second segment, Best in Class, you should be able to explain what a best in class designation is. And from this segment, Tools and Resources for Federal Acquisition Professionals, you should be able to describe at least 3 category management resources. Does that about cover it?
Absolutely. Thanks, John.
Well, thank you, Rachel, for delivering all this great knowledge to the federal acquisition workforce.
My pleasure.
We're glad you've taken the time to experience this presentation about category management. We look forward to the great questions you'll submit for Rachel by September 29, 2017, and we'll post the answers along with this presentation. The Federal Acquisition Institute thanks our guest, Rachel Gilderlane, and of course FAI thanks you, our viewers, for your time and attention.